Welcome to the Possibility in the Universe. Today, we're going to be talking about the possibility in wholesome collaboration between self, collaboration with others, and collaboration with God. Before we get into what wholesome collaboration means to us, we want to talk a little bit about what wholesome collaboration is not, because it's important when we authentically create a real healing to not bypass and really touch the places and really feel them. So if you guys want to make this podcast into a quantum healing experience as well, then I invite you to feel the feelings that come up for you when we share the words that we share. So if you feel activated or tired or lethargic or sluggish or excited, allow those energies to run through you, because that will support us all in moving not only the podcast that we're speaking with our words, but the energetics of this, and to really be able to bring this all the way home, not only to your minds, but also energetically. And hopefully we can create a soul movement, not only for ourselves, but through the world. We can silently constellate this topic. So, guys, ready?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you feel something and you feel like you want to move your body at any point, or you feel like you have tears coming through and you want to cry, let it come through, because that's the way that we move energy, by allowing what's natural to flow. And let's say you feel cynical or bored or judgmental, even whatever it is, allow that feeling to be present, because that's what's going to take you to the next place that there is
And all of
to
us.
get to. And all of us.
Yeah.
Wholesome collaboration could be misunderstood in our society, because often we call things collaborations when it's really things created from fear or scarcity, or things created through self-abandonment. That's a big one. And things created from unclear identity, unclear knowing of who we really are. And that's so normal, because we're all human. And we all create from where we're at and from what we know. But often, as we awaken and become more conscious and aware, we can be challenged. We can find ourselves challenged by the collaborations that we are in. And we can also, whether it's friendship, a marriage, business, etc., or we can find ourselves withdrawing from collaboration and isolating in some way, and responding to the challenging past collaborations with not collaborating at all.
It was funny because Rivky was like, "Yeah, but we really need stories. We have all this information, but what's the stories? Every conversation that we have is the story."
Yeah.
And so I just feel like we should just like
Go
drop some
ahead.
of that into the space. So I think it takes courage to be in a wholesome collaboration, because you just said this misunderstood energy or this desire to retreat because it didn't land exactly the way you're hoping for, or it wasn't received in the way that you're hoping for. So it does take courage. And I feel so grateful to be in this relationship in a wholesome way, because there is courage in our relationship, which makes you address the things that are uncomfortable often,
Yeah.
and points out the patterns that are not working, that are making it frustrating for one or the other. And so, Rifki asked me, how can I get a hold of you and have you actually respond to the things that I need to respond to? Because it's really important that things happen in a timely manner, because that's how we move things. That's how we move the needle. And I'm like, yeah, I totally get that. Of course. Yeah. Like, duh. And when you don't respond, then the thing that I just needed you to respond to ends up on my list again for the next day. And so then I again have to be the one to ask you again. And now I feel, and I'm speaking for Rivki, she's like, now I feel I'm the one who's being a nudge. And I'm feeling I don't want to be this person, but you also didn't freaking answer me. So how are we going to do this? So I was like, well, why don't we make a group called the Possibility in the Universe Timely? Okay, we'll put that, and then I'm for sure gonna get back to you. For sure. I'm telling you. It'll be like at that one. I know that's the place that you really need to hear from me ASAP. And so that's the place I'm gonna for sure answer. Guess what? Guess what? We made that group, okay? And guess what? About the thing that I asked you, and we talk to each other every single day.
Yeah,
So it's like,
every
it's
day.
not like we didn't have a bunch of other conversations, but we're trying to also be in wholesome collaboration outside of friendship because that's part of the
Yeah.
collaboration part. So it's okay. So you said that this was going to be the thing that we're going to work. This is the infrastructure that's going to really allow the foundation for wholesome collaboration. Okay. So
that timely chat.
About that timely chat. Come on, yeah, I don't want to bring it up or whatever, just like about the thing that I messaged for 3 days already that I reminded you and reminded you 3 times. I'm like, oh, really? Wait. Looking at my phone. Oh, I somehow missed that. Just, well, is there a way that we can make it that you don't miss that? Because you're the one who brought up the idea to begin with, okay? So yeah, there's something courageous that comes into the space, and there is something about more than just the awareness in the ways that it is finding the practices that really do land in a way that doesn't have to feel quiet resentment. Because oftentimes when we're not addressing the thing that's really bothering us in the collaboration, we're building a quiet resentment. So if Rivky didn't reach out to me and say the things that she felt in a courageous way,
Yeah.
which is so beautiful and so helpful, it's then I just think that everything is fine. But in the meantime, no, because actually I'm getting annoyed with you, but I also don't know how to address it because I'm afraid that you're going to misinterpret it or I don't know. All the things that keep us from the courage to just say the thing that really is, which ultimately allows us to find better ways so that so that we can each really hold our own in that space. And so,
yeah, and I think that what happened, I mean, such a good story.
yeah.
But I also think that what mitigates, and you can feel it in the resonance field, I'm not annoyed because I told her. Do you get what I'm saying? And when we don't, we carry these quiet resentments, maybe for years. The things that create usually loss of shalom, peace, most often isn't even big stories. It's the tiny things that build up over, sometimes it is the big stories, but sometimes it's those tiny things, misunderstandings that build up over time, that build up over time, that build up over time. And for me, the courage to have those conversations is that my ego tells me that they're petty. There's a part of me that tells me that I'm annoying or I'm being a nudge. I'm compromising my friendship in some way by being the annoying one. And it tells me that maybe it's not worth it. Maybe I should just let it go. Or, Chani's so chill. Why can't I be so chill? Right? We're in a collaboration. Let me take a page out of her book. And I do. But there's also these aspects that actually complement each other very well when we communicate. But I think the thing that allows me to have the courage is the fact that we've had these conversations in the past and they always consistently go so well.
Yeah.
You don't get defensive. I don't get defensive. There is a space there where it's okay. Yeah.
Also, like,
I get it.
I mean, I go with myself a little bit. No.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference between, such a fine line. It's such a fine line between tiny annoyances that actually are probably really good to let go. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes somebody says something, somebody else says something. If you ruminated about it, it will become a problem. But if you never think about it again, it probably won't ever be a problem. And then there's things that are really important because they are affecting not only the moment, but so many moments around it.
Yeah, I want to shine light on honesty that you offered once that I thought was so powerful. Where Rivky, I guess there was like, again, something where communication was a little lax on my end. And maybe have some stuff going on with communication. It might be, I maybe I'll have to go, I might have to go to a medicine circle and work through that. But until then, no, but Rifki said something, I in my mind, I thought, oh, but she's dealing with all of her kids. We can come up with excuses for other to pacify the feeling that we're experiencing and minimize our own experience in it.
I had like 12 excuses for you, by the way.
Yes.
One of them I wrote in my journal.
Excuses for Chani. But like really, that's a load of BS because ultimately when it's the thing that you want to do in the moment that you want to do it, you're going to find every way to get that done. And so to notice in ourselves when we are making excuses for others of what might have been for them, which there's a part of that's part of the Torah, right? Dan l'kaf being really open and generous with the way that we're relating to others. Dan l'kaf is to still give someone the benefit of doubt, but not in the way that we're minimizing what was important to us in that space.
Yeah.
Because that's not actually being on the cosmos to ourselves, which can't really work then.
Yeah.
Don the cosmos is generous towards others when it's not compromising something inside of ourselves in that way.
Yeah, and I'm remembering, well, we were in a facilitation on the retreat, and Chani was receiving the facilitation in Spa in Israel.
Okay.
And you were working through something specific that I won't share here right now, but what I will share is that there was a reckoning with disappointment and the feeling of disappointment. And I remember you had said something to me in the middle of the process. What if I am disappointed with you? And I looked at you and I was like, it's okay. We can handle it. And there was this woman there who was witnessing that moment of someone else on the retreat. And she said she came all the way to Tzat. She had for whoever here has been on a retreat, she had an amazing, incredible, wild, transformational experience. But that moment, she said, was one of the biggest moments for her because she realized that her entire life, for 35, 40 years, she was abandoning her inner world for every friendship and relationship she's ever been in because she was afraid of disappointment. Every single relationship. And she went home and she had a reckoning with every single relationship. And I think what's so wild is that anything built on self-compromise or abandonment will collapse. Raise your hand if you resonate with that at this stage of your life. Yeah, it will. But it will either move through and create space for something more wholesome to take its place. Or it will resurrect, like it will become something new, or it won't be there anymore. It will die. And there's something about the presencing of that I think is really sobering, but I also think it's really hopeful. Because even if a relationship, it doesn't mean, that the relationship as it is, you can't be in relation with that person. It's just that version of that relationship cannot exist anymore. It is dead. That doesn't mean that another version of the same relationship with the same person can't exist. And when we're able to really expand our capacity for grief, really, we can also expand our capacity to let things die. And I think as a community, for those of you that are here, some of you that are here that have done this and continue to do this, if you live a life with your eyes open, you contend with that often. You contend with that often. And there's something so wholesome about just acknowledging it without doing anything about it. It is. It just is. And if we are growing and if we are becoming more aware, like past versions of ourselves also die. They also die. And a wholesome collaboration begins with ourself, our whole self. And I'm going to skip to the end of what I wrote because there's something that I want to share right now. Who here wants to live in a world of unity? Me. Mashiach Tzaitzid, Everybody wants Mashiach. We want Mashiach, we want Mashiach now. We all want Mashiach. We all want to live in a world of unity. And I find that sometimes, especially in the healing space, which, we're all frequenters of that frequency, sometimes we can skip a step, especially people who frequent psychedelic work where oneness comes into the field. And oneness doesn't come from yet. There's developmental steps. We won't just disappear into oneness. It needs to come from having an integrated self. There needs to be a whole self contributing to the oneness. Because otherwise, we're just fragments contributing to other fragments. It's like we become more whole, we become less fragmented, we become more whole, we become less fragmented, and then we become a match to the oneness. And we become these tuning forks to also what we desire because our energy literally becomes more like Hashem. So, to say that very simply, that by healing or by feeling, by remembering who we are, by identifying, by feeling and also identifying less with our feelings and more with our soul, feel our feelings, not become our feelings, we literally start vibrating at the God frequency. Wholesome collaboration is not becoming less of who you are. No, not becoming a diluted version of yourself so you could somehow fit into the idea of oneness that you might have had in your mind. But it is that when we are fully ourselves, that is the frequency of God.
Yeah, it makes me think of this post I saw. It says, be yourself so that your tribe can find you.
Mm-hmm.
If, if we're putting out something different, then obviously we're not going to mirror back from the universe what it is that we're looking to receive. But the more that we can be in alignment with the honesty of what it is that we desire to be in this universe, or just allowing ourselves to just be, then we attract. I mean, we are all reflections of each other in this room and in this space. You can feel the energy in the space. We are the shining lights in the ways that we desire to be. And so that's why we are all here together, which is such an epic feeling. But I study Torah with my dad every Thursday, and
Sorry.
we're learning the Tanya now. And we were talking about this concept, how all things in this world exist because of the intention of godliness that is in it. And without it, it would cease to exist. So he's like, oh yeah, I thought about this concept a lot. What happens when the intention is the tree, but then the human goes to the tree and cuts the tree down and then creates a table? Is God saying tree, or is God saying table? Because it was talking about the power of the words that create, right? God recreates and the words are constant. And so that's what keeps recreating. So is he saying tree or is he saying table? So I was like, oh, that's an interesting thought. And so we just sat with it for a little bit. And then I was like, no. I was like, it has to be that he says tree. But my thought was, it's like when you put two gases together to create the third entity, in order for that entity to exist, each entity of what we're collaborating with needs to be fully itself in order for that third entity to be. In order to create something new, in order to birth something into this universe, even in the idea of birth, right? It takes the two partners and the entity of God to be able to create the newness of what's possible here. But only if each of those elements are being fully themselves. Because if either one of those cease to exist in their fullness, then that third entity is not going to be able to be anymore. So God is not necessarily, obviously he's also creating the third entity. But in order for that to be, it's like the fullness of self in that collaboration is what allows for that to come into existence. So I just feel like ultimately when we think about what is collaboration with ourselves, with others, and that's the one that we practice the most because we are in an interactive universe where we're meant to do things together. Wise women keep reiterating, and your vibration keeps reiterating itself in my mind constantly, that this idea of together is better. And that's what we're meant to do. We're not meant to live in a vacuum. We're really meant to shine light towards each other, reflect each other in the beautiful ways that we do. And that's how we create the third entity, whatever that's becoming, whatever that is, trusting in that, trusting in each other's ability to, encouraging each other, being like sister advocates, and it's like when the tide rises, all the boats rise. So the more that we can shine light towards each other, the more we can encourage each other to be in our fullness, to be in the most of our light, the more we all bring more goodness, more ideas, more possibilities, more fun. Ultimately, let's be real, okay?
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. So yeah, I just thought it's so cool because it's really the essence of what it is and so much less of what it becomes, because there's nothing new under the sun. We're not creating a new concept. Everything is already. Wow. We're taking from what is the fullness of each thing that God created with its intention and creating with that. And that's the fullness. I couldn't have the raw material if it wasn't here to build, to create, to conceptualize, to all of that.
Such beautiful Torah. Wow. 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 And I've been thinking and speaking a lot recently with different people about the idea of a bittul. And so it's interesting that you had mentioned it because it's definitely something that I've been thinking about and something that I've been speaking about. And it's very interesting because for those of you who are familiar with the idea of bittul, in the pshat of it, how do you say pshat for the
Well,
article?
bittul, first of all, is like ultimate
Nullification.
nullification and
Yeah.
humility.
Yes.
And pshat is like the simplest version.
Yes. So the simplest version of understanding it is nullification of almost, and some people understand it as making themselves like smaller. And the truth is that there's two other ways that I like to think of the idea of bittul, of nullification, which is that the first thing is that sometimes we think bittul means nullification of ourself. I like to think of bittul as nullification of the parts of us that are not self. The nullification of the things that are our neuroses or our trauma or even our mishigas, those things to help those become smaller so that the true self, the one that's vibrating on the frequency of Hashem, can just come back to the oneness. And the way I see bittul is being a channel. It's being your full self because you know where you come from, which is the ultimate humility. There's this collaboration with God. It's funny because we have this misunderstanding, I believe, in our society, especially with women, around false humility. I just felt like you.
Such a good embodiment.
Right? And it's like we all do it in our own way. And sometimes we don't realize when we're putting out our light because we have some kind of idea that like someone or something is bigger than us or more important than us or more relevant or more interesting or more healed or I don't know, whatever way you want to look at it. But when we don't stand in our full true humility of being the channel that we're here to be and allowing ourselves to be ourselves. There's nothing more nullifying to the ego than that. Truly and truthfully. And what's so wild is that people don't receive the most judgment from others when they're small. Usually, they receive the most judgment for others when they start to become a channel because others might not know yet that they too are a channel, just equally the same channel. So the thought in the field would be, who do they think they are? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And somebody asked one of my clients who became a public speaker, who do you think you are? One of their relatives. And she literally, her breath caught in her throat. She's feeling her feet on the ground. She's like, I'm aware that I'm aware. And she looks back at the lady. She goes, I'm a child of God. I'm a child of Hashem, and so are you. No charge, no defense. And I want to acknowledge and take a minute to really feel the pain of inauthenticity because it's not our fault. The masks that we wear, in some way, they were given to us. And, it's like this in this world of empowerment that we live in, we also acknowledge all the parts. And there is a part in the world of empowerment that is a victim. In Francis Weller's book, The Wild Edge of Sorrow, and I've shared this at 13 6-week groups and 4 Way of the Heart groups, so I've shared the story many times. He has a beautiful story. You probably know it, Risha. You'll hear it and then you'll know it. But he shared the story about how when someone did a sin in their community, any kind, someone would steal something or whatever it is, did some kind of sin, some kind of infidelity, something. The community, every single person, men, women, children, elders, newborn babies would gather. I think it was for 3 days, but I would have to fact check myself. So I'm just saying that and that I had need to fact check myself. And for 3 days and shower the person with love and care and compassion. And the belief was that if someone did something that is inauthentic to the spirit, to the frequency of Hashem, then it must be that they don't have enough love. It must be. It must be, and that's why. So when we're able to really, feel that towards an authenticity, then we're also able to bring the fragments home. Because in order for us all to take off our masks, we need ourselves and others to unshame the masks that we wore until then. So in that song that we love, it says, sorry, I forgive you, thank you, I love you. Love the one who judges, love the one who lies, because they are the one who are hurting deepest down inside. So let's just take a minute and spread love.
Okay, so I want to pick a card
Yeah,
because
go ahead. Let's move
I'm just
into.
going to bring everyone to the audience that's also listening that at this live podcast event, we offered the opportunity to also ask questions. By the way, I left the cards and the pen there, so if other questions arrive, then they can be written down. So I'm just going to pick a card that was brought to us, and then let's see what it says. How do you suggest navigating an abundant mindset with a spouse who is not there? It's a fantastic question.
Want to take it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let's see what comes through. Yes, because wholesome collaboration seems like it would mean that it requires both people to be in the same place at the same time in order for it to happen. It seems like what wholesome collaboration means is two minds meeting and they're like really in sync with each other.
Yeah.
Which often we find that's not actually true.
Yeah.
Especially in relationship and especially in intimate relationship, because we are each in our individual journeys together on a journey. So again, there's this understanding that we are both very individual. We're both very individual together on a journey. So, I mean, I could speak from my own personal experience because, I have a really awesome husband who's on his own journey also, spiritually, emotionally, in so many ways. And myself on my own journey with my own things that are challenging me and my own way of coping and dealing or avoiding, because that's a really good one for me. Like the idea of hinting something doesn't work. It just doesn't. Like the hopes that someone's going to pick up what you're putting down without being very explicit about what you're trying to say and getting as clear as you can with your communication is just going to lead to further misunderstood and feelings that feel more resentful and more distraught. And there's a fantasy because we grow up in this world of fantasy so often that I'm just going to pretend and put something out there and suddenly it's just going to be met, which is, it's not my experience, guys. And I'm yet to meet someone where it's their experience. So I feel like it's safe to say that without a really clear understanding of what I need first, which again, it's like it starts with the collaboration with ourselves. What do I need first with clarity inside of myself that I can communicate with other? Which doesn't mean that person has to be where I am because they could be entitled to their own journey and the pace that it takes. But in the place that we come together, in the place where we come together, that's where I need you. And so can I get clear about what I need in the place that we're together? Because a lot of the journey is where we're holding when we're holding, wherever we're holding. And I may get there and I may never get there. But if we can be in the place where we meet somewhere that we can find understanding, with clear communication, and it doesn't really matter
Mm.
where you're holding on your spiritual journey, because that's your personal journey in your experience. But the place where we meet is a place that matters the most. And so I feel that, and it is likely, and I will say for myself, because, we went on a retreat. I personally had the opportunity to be in a facilitation of a family constellation. And my intention was shalom bias and abundance. Both of those intentions were in the space. And I was bumping up into a story that has been circulating for a while until something moved, something energetically moved, and someone took on a role where she brought a new energy into the space and something moved energetically, which gave me a lot of strength and confidence to get even more clear about what my needs are, what my desire truly, deeply is. And so I wrote it all down. I really got super clear. I'm like, this is what I want it to look like. This is what I believe it to be. This is what I want to experience with you. This is what I want for us. And I offered it and I communicated it to my husband. And it was, and the way that it was responded to was, that's a fantasy. And so that felt really misunderstood. Felt really misunderstood. So in an old way, in outside of wholesome collaboration, I would have just been like, here we are again, and go down that spiral and be like, it'll never happen. He'll never meet me where I'm at, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't need to do that because I knew what my need was. And so I stated my need again. I said, please don't minimize what I know to be true because it's a little bit daunting for you. I see you and I get that. And you don't have to meet me where I'm at in this moment, but you can hold the vision because that's what I need you to hold. Are you willing? Are you willing to hold the vision? Because it gets overwhelming, right? Because I'm asking for something so big. When somebody is in a healing journey and they're coming to such awareness and they're like, I know it's possible and this is the way it could be. And the other person who's not quite there yet is like, holy hell, how am I going to even match that? I could feel, it could be that the other person feels intimidated, overwhelmed, out of sorts, not grounded in that space, and the ask is too big. And so the way to deal with that is just minimize the ask. Mm-hmm. Pretend that's not really valuable. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, oftentimes we get so distraught by the misunderstood feeling that we just let it go. You know what? Forget it. Just forget it. And then we throw the baby out with bathwater. And the whole thing has no, but if we can just be like, I see you. I see where you're holding. We're not going to be holding in the same place. It's not real to believe that. It happens for some, and lucky for them, and how awesome, and what to aspire to, because when we have examples in this universe, we know the imprint is there, and so we know that it is possible. Yeah. But we also have to give it the patience and time and love and compassion in the space that we're in this moment. And so when I can have compassion for what your remark is really coming from and see you and what that must feel like to be the one receiving the like epiphany and be the one who's like, where, how? I'm like, I know. We don't really even need to know how, but can you meet me in the willingness to believe that this is possible? Because that's what I need from you. Mm-hmm. I don't even need you to be any of those things, actually. I just need you to believe because that's what I need. Can you meet me there? And it took a few days. Took a few days to really feel into, is that possible? Can I? Luckily, he said yes, guys. But it's cool. So it's like, yes, in some way, there's this fantasy that's we're just gonna always be able to be on the same pace. It's like we can in the places that it's meant for us to be. We don't need to be in every single way. It's not real. That's part of the individuality. If not, we would be the same. And that's so boring. Same. The idea is that we have our unique ways and we have our own perspective and we have dynamic and there is contrast and there is, challenges that come up because that's the point. We're meant to be able to shine each other's hearts so that it's shining the most bright. And so when I offer you an expansion. I'm saying, don't be this, believe in it with me.
If
Then
you're
we
willing.
could become that if you're willing.
Yeah.
That was the ask.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's
Beautiful,
all I have to say
beautiful.
about that.
Beautiful, beautiful share. And I would add to that one thing, taking that answer from another perspective, abundance is not only about money. Abundance is also about appreciation. If we don't have what we have now, we're not going to have what we have later, even if we have a lot more than we have now, because we don't have access to the present. So it's really important to recognize the nourishment that's always here in each and every moment. So I think that if your husband's not into your abundance mindset around money and whatever that looks like for you, then would your husband be into your abundance embodiment about presence when you're with him and you're taking that moment fully in? In that presence, when you spend an extra minute making eye contact, in that presence, when you sit down at the table and you eat the food and you're delicious, when you model what it is to have what you have while you have it, then there's something that brings abundance into the home. And we say on retreats, it works every time. Yeah, every single time. So if you're looking for your husband to have more abundance, or your friend, or your parent, or your child, or whatever it is, what would it be like to become more nourished, more present, more abundant? And if we don't have what we have now, we're not going to have it later. Even if something epic hits us in the face, we literally won't see it. We're not going to have it. I know people who are extraordinarily wealthy and they don't have what they have. They do not. And I know people who have very little material wealth and they are extraordinarily present and they have what they need and they have what they have and they feel so wholesome about it. So I think that's something that's really important. And a lot of times, because being present is so challenging for each and every one of us because of where we come from, we try to project that responsibility on somebody else to delight us, to ignite us, to light our fire. Don't light our own fire. Our fire is not going to be lit no matter, it might be lit for a moment. Somebody else might be like, shh, and we have that moment, but it's going to go out very quickly. So, yeah, let's see if there's one more. Oh, I love this question.
Well,
How can one connect to collaboration between? I think this question actually brings it all together. So thanks for giving us a finale, because this is kind of what my notes said. How can one connect to collaboration between self, God, and others as one? Is it meant to be as one without losing either or any part? So you want me to start? I think that the only way for it to be wholesome is if it is, with all. And I think part of the dance of life, like you just so beautifully presenced, means that sometimes leaning into one thing means a little bit less of something else, and leaning into something else means a little bit less of something else. Each of our souls, and I am going to invite you to close your eyes in a minute to feel into what yours is, but each of our souls brings, we're all a part of the divine, but we all bring a little bit of a different flavor of the divine to the world. You can feel like a little bit of a different flavor in each person. And each of our souls have a specific thing that our souls bring beyond anything that we do, beyond anything that we feel about ourselves, beyond any constructs. And I know the things that I know that I'm in my alignment is when my soul is shining balance, nurture, and confidence. And we each have our own, and it could change. Those just happen to be what mine is. But sometimes, so I'll work with balance. Sometimes, specifically, when we are moving into something being more balanced, it gets unbalanced for a little bit. It's like the energetic recalibration period, right? You were moving into a better balance in your marriage. So you shared this thing that then brought you out of whack for a bit, for a few days, before it calibrated, before it continues to calibrate once again.
Yeah.
And for those of us that are on a journey of personal growth, we know those experiences. Now, if we can collaborate with God in those moments and shift our perspective from, oh shit, I am falling apart again. I trusted myself and things aren't working out. What's wrong with me? If we can just hold it, if we can just hold the challenge and say, this is what's expanding my capacity right now, and shift our perspective, then we can move into more and more greater balances with more and more ease. And I find that specifically around physical, energetic, and emotional healing, I've had a physical healing journey. And part of that was that sometimes in different stages of it, there was a unbound where I felt more sick before I felt better. And we know how that feels energetically, emotionally, spiritually. Now, when we freak out, it makes us sicker. But when we're able to really find that maturity to recognize sometimes when my clients are more challenged, they look at me, they're like, "You're not worried?" I'm like, "No, because I know that now it's going to get good." That first session when it was so full of hope, and then the third session when things started to dissipate a little bit, I'm like, now we're about to touch the gold. Now the alchemy is happening. And I know alchemy because I experience alchemy. So I'm like, we're in the alchemy, and I'm not afraid. And those of you who have seen, one of the women who came on the retreat, she said her first retreat, she came on 2 retreats, but the first one she came on, she said she watched me go through 10 facilitations, and there's always a moment in the middle of every facilitation where people are like, is this gonna work? What's happening? And then there's that moment where we touch that real unbalance, and then it works every time. Works every time because life works every time. So l'chaim to life. L'chaim to life, that works every time. Hashem works every time. When we plug into Hashem, and we collaborate with Hashem, and we tell Hashem, I'm willing to be my full self. I'm willing to be a channel. I'm willing to grieve what I'm not. I'm willing to be who I am. And from that place, I'm willing to collaborate with others in ways that are more healthy than before, in ways that I'm both a student and a leader. Because all of us have both those parts inside of us, and it's important to embody those aspects of us, even if it just means leading ourselves. And may we be blessed to see the greatest wholesome collaboration in our time, which is the unification of all of our souls.
We are so humbled and delighted to have you with us. Our podcast is Real Life in Real Time, where we embark on curious conversations that expand our awareness and capacity for all that is possible.
The Possibility of the Universe podcast is only possible because of you, our audience. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks so much for being here, and thanks so much for listening. I'm Chani. First and foremost, I am a believer. I am a wife. I am a mother of 6 beautiful children, and I am the owner of Grassroots Brooklyn, an experiential art collective and floral atelier. I am also a life coach working with both individuals and couples to empower them to step into all of their own possibilities in this universe. You can find me on Instagram at Makom Sanctuary and on my website, www.grassrootsbklyn.com.
Hi, I'm Rivky, and I love life. I love heart-centered living. I love to be curious, and I love to connect with all things. I started off as a social worker and developmental therapist, and now I work as a somatic and subconscious practitioner using modalities such as somatic healing, breathwork, bodywork, hypnotherapy, and some really magical and incredible quantum healing technologies. I work with individuals, couples, run retreats and courses using these modalities to help people find the most freedom, presence, aliveness, and embodiment inside of their lives. The ways to contact us are through my website, rivkygross.com. That is spelled RIVKY dash, the straight line dash, gross, GROSS.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Chani at Muckhome Sanctuary, and myself at Rivky Gross. We are here for any and all questions and feedback through the contact form on the website, and we're so looking forward to hearing from you.